And good evening or morning wherever you're at. This is Reverend Dr. D. Calmet. And thank you for spending the next few moments with us wherever you're at. I know many of you follow me from different places of the world. And wherever you're at, we pray that you have peace, that you have a sense of oneness. That's God of many names. Whatever it is you call this God, whether it's Allah, whether it's Buddha, Krishna, God, Jehovah, that God of many names, that you begin to lean into that energy, that power that is greater than you, that is also you. So let's take a moment to center ourselves. And as we can hear the music in the background, let's take a moment just to breathe in. And let us breathe out. Let us breathe in serenity. As Jesus said to the storm on the sea, peace, peace, be still. Let us breathe in, even in the midst of chaos, that sense of peace. And let us breathe out anything that is not of God. That peace that passeth all understanding. And for the next few moments, let us just, as we breathe in, to the count of 4, breathe out. To the count of 4, breathe in and out. Let us picture a little ball of golden light just touching us on the head. And as we see this golden light touching us, we're walking into a beautiful garden with beautiful streams and beautiful trees and flowers. And a cool breeze is flowing. And we see a golden temple with the same golden light. And as we get near that golden temple, as we're walking in the garden of serenity, all fear, all fear, all fear begins to flow from us, out of us. And that peace that passes understanding begins to fill our body. And so it is. And so it is. This particular talk I'm calling A Name and a Future. Think about it. What's the word that seems that babies most recognize and respond to? Most babies, they usually respond to their names first. And research says that most babies will reach this milestone of responding to their names first in about 6 to 9 months. But a child develops this at really their own pace, but that's pretty much the norm. And what's important about this is a baby's name is so important to them. It identifies who they are as a unique individual. It helps them understand their place in the world. And that name continues with people, most people, all of their life. Think about this. Before you're even born, somebody has given you a name. You didn't get to choose that name. You had absolutely nothing to do with that name. They didn't ask whether you liked that name or whether you didn't like that name. They said, this is your name. Think about this. They also decided what color you're going to like. Boys like blue, girls like pink, and maybe the undecided likes yellow. But the parents beforehand, they go and they paint the rooms certain colors to match the gender that you're assigned at birth. And when you get here to the Earth School, to the planet, wow, you're expected to like whatever was planned out. And you get to a certain age, and used to be that boys liked fire trucks and jungle gyms and little army soldiers and guns and things, and little girls liked Barbies and dolls. That was pretty much the norm that people taught us. And if you were a little boy and you liked a Barbie, well, your parents usually tried to discourage you from liking Barbies because they thought you were going to be different. Now, sometimes if your name is John, sometimes they called you Johnny. Sometimes they called you Jack. Sometimes these different little nicknames. And some of the nicknames have stuck. But understanding that the name that we have, that name that we're called, that name that we call ourselves, it makes us feel we're connected to a certain group. It makes us help to feel that we're respected. It makes us feel valued. It makes us feel that we're worth remembering. You know, names can have an important connection with your family, a person's family, a culture as well. One of my friends who, in the English we call Lance, is an American Indian. And the names that the American Indians give their children, according to their culture, some of these names reflect a child's future or reflect a parent's expectation for the child. And a name may actually connect the way that a child belongs in a certain family. For instance, I had an older brother that was about a year older than me, and his name was Charles. His name was Ratio. And no, my dad's name was Ratio. His name was Charles Lee. Charles meaning my father's first name, which was Charles, and second name Ratio, and my grandfather's name being Lee. So he was the place in the family. He was the firstborn. That was his place in the family. Now, when I came along, my name that I was born with was Stephen Bruce. And when I asked the connection between the two names, I was told that Stephen was a alcoholic drunk that hung outside of my gas station, and that the name Bruce was a name that my mother liked, the name of the milkman. True, milkman. But for me, there wasn't that sense of belonging in the family, that energy of being part of that family. There was something missing that I didn't understand. And for years and years, I wanted to change my name. But of course, we're taught in our society you can't do that. Now, later on in my adult life, I learned that Stephen actually, from a biblical sense, meant man of faith. And Stephen waited on tables in the Bible, and he was a man of faith. So part of that I still embody. So we're talking about a name, and I've changed my name several times, and I've gotten criticized for changing my name. One of my friends said, "You've got to be a felon because you've changed your name." And who changes their name? So the energy, what I know is this: the energy in your name creates personality. Your name affects your mind and affects your behavior. And in a spiritual realm, your name is really far more than just an identifier. It's a personal vibration. It's a symbol really of your soul's purpose. Because you see, we are spiritual beings having a human experience right now. And it's a symbol of your soul's purpose, and it's a tool for connecting to higher energies. And your name holds a deep, really energetic weight, and it helps shape your destiny, and it helps shape your life. Now, when we talk about names, remember we're talking about a name and a future. Names that are given in Scripture seem to do more than just describe their character. They declare a potential calling or a covenant with that person. All throughout Scripture, names are never just names. They are given with intent. They are given when they mark different transitions. They reveal identity and speak of God's calling. Now, sometimes a new name comes from God directly. Like when he renamed Abram and Sarah, when he called Simon, who we called St. Peter, but he was Simon before he was Peter, and before he followed Jesus. And there are other times when, like Naomi and even Adam, we're not given the moment that God gives them new names. And sometimes it's like the Apostle Paul. The change is so transformative, and it's really unannounced. And you know, Paul was riding the donkey, and he was Saul. His character was that of harassing the Christians. His character was that of being mean-bodied and being of purpose anything but a God purpose. And what I've said often is sometimes God has to knock you off your ass for you to really get with the program. And what all these stories in the Bible about names changing, they tell us that when God calls somebody, he's calling someone into a covenant. He's calling someone into an identity, into a purpose. And when he calls you into an identity, into a purpose, he gives them and you a new name. Like Pope Leo has a new name. All the popes end up having a new name when they become pope. Now, first in my name, it was Stephen, I shortened it to Steven. I didn't like the name Bruce, so I just went by Stephen B for so long. And I didn't like my last name Ford because I never felt like I belonged to that family. The energy just wasn't there. The identification wasn't there. It doesn't matter whether that particular bloodline was there or not, because I understand that we're spiritual beings having a human existence, and it really does not matter how we got to the planet. We came to the planet to learn to love, to learn to be the expression and the evidence of God on this planet. So I was in my 30s, I'm in my mid-70s now, in my 30s, and I was trying to figure out how to change my name without hurting my grandparents. And my parents had both died, so I didn't have to worry about them. And finally, I decided just to do it. And so I was looking for a name, and I thought, oh, Adrian's a nice name. I had seen a soap opera star by the name of Adrian. I thought, Adrian, that's such a nice name. So the inclination to change my name, to reach into a different type of energy was there. And at this particular time, I was a gospel music artist. I've told this story before, but I'm telling it in this context with a name and a future now. I was going to be in a concert in the city of Oakland, California, at the Oakland Auditorium there. And there are various artists that were going to be there, gospel artists. And of course, an artist is an artist, and every artist wants to have their time in the spotlight, and certain artists want to follow other artists because it just kind of keeps the momentum going, and they might feel like that artist was so good that they don't want to be behind them even. But you try to listen to the person directing the program. So we're there for rehearsal, and there's a lot of chaos going on. 10 different chaoses going on. Oh, could we get a louder mic? Oh, could you put a different gel in that light so that tonight when we sing that it looks a certain way? Oh, could you back like this? So all this mess going on. Oh, I can't hear myself. Could the sound man turn a little more bass? All this kind of thing. And so all this is going on, and a group walked into the room. And this lady came into the room, Hawaiian lady. She had a muumuu, or something that we call like a kaftan now. She never said a word. She never gestured. She simply walked into the room, and my friends were talking about the energy, creating your personality, the energy that affects your name, your mind, and your behavior, the energy that is your personal vibration, that is a symbol of your soul's purpose, the energy that your name is a tool for a higher connection. And I understood this woman's name to be Damien. That's what I understood. And this woman, without saying anything, gesturing anything, just her very presence in the room, every voice and every chaotic moment stopped immediately. And there was such a connection of love. There was such a connection of peace. There was connection of a purpose that was greater than our own singular purposes that we were a part of, and yet individual and yet collectively. And in that moment I said, that's for me. That's for me. And I began to do a lot of internal work on myself. I wanted to be like her. I wanted to be, when I walked into a room, that people's thirst for life was quenched. I wanted to be that when I walked into the room, that I could simply in my mind and in my consciousness say, peace, be still. And the calmness would go across the room. I wanted to be that when I walked into the room, that if you were hurting and felt deep pain, that you felt healing happening in that time and that space. Talking about a name and a future. And I went on in my life to change my name to the name Damien. And as I began to change my name to Damien, and in those days it was before computers, so I didn't really have to have a first and a last. It was just a singular name that I was able to change it to. Every time I would say my name to myself, I was thinking peace. I was thinking love. I was thinking forgiveness. I was thinking acceptance. I was thinking, open your heart and let peace be here. And it was during that time also that I began to learn about meditation in the morning. Do you know, some of you have told me that you meditate at night and things, and meditation is good whenever you do it, right? But let me tell you something. That before you actually become awake in the morning, there's that little space that is like a twilight space in your mind. And in that moment in time is the time to set an intention for the day. And that moment in time is the time to connect with the God consciousness that is in you, that is through you, that is you, that is already there. And that moment in time is not the time to turn on the news and see what's happening in the world. That's the moment in time where you set your intention for your life. So many people get up in the morning and they begin to think of all the negative things. What can go wrong? How can I get this done? How can this do? Oh, if I meet with this person, this is gonna go wrong. Well, can I ask you this? When you get up in the morning, what can go right? What's going right today? What in my consciousness can help me to connect to this higher power, this higher energy? Let my vibration. And as I begin to work, and it is work, as I begin to work on this and I begin to bring my life into shape. Now, have I always done it? No, please. I've fallen off the wagon on this so many times, because you see, when you begin to live a life from the mountaintop, it's a lot more pointed at the mountaintop than it is with the big wide bottom of the mountain. A lot of people around the mountain, it gets kind of lonely and isolated up here. But I'll tell you what, the view from the mountaintop is sure a lot better than the foot of the mountain. A name and a future. And then when I went from what we call transitioning in my gender identity, I knew I wasn't going to change my name to Evelyn, and if your name's Evelyn, I'm not making fun of that, or Crispy Critters, or Nelly Nelly, or Nitty Nitty, or whatever it be. Because even as a male gender, people still called me Dr. D. And that Dr. D in my consciousness was that Dr. Damien person that walks in. And then I did a little research. And I had to laugh when I read this. D meant daughter of God. So my purpose, my future, my beingness on the planet, all has to do with the covenant that God and I have, that I'm here for you, God. I'm here for you. I'm here to be the expression of love on this planet. My identity is to be the expression of love. My identity is to, and my purpose is to be love on this planet. And my friends, love isn't something you do, it's something that you are. And out of your are-ness, out of your beingness, comes the extension of your doingness. You know, in the Corinthians, the apostle tells us that we can do all these miracles, we can do all these cha-cha things, we can feed the poor, we can clothe people, we can do the, but if we don't have that love, if we're not loved through and through, we're just a tinkling cymbal and just a brass gong. We're just a loudmouth. We're just a ding-dong carrying on. So I bring this to you for this reason. What's your name? Let me tell you a little story on a name that's not me. Many of you know I used to be a evangelist, TV minister, the whole thing. And I was in Independence, Missouri, doing a crusade. And at that particular time, I did not understand about names. I didn't understand about raising your consciousness. I know that all I did was just pray all the time and cry and ask God to be with me and be in the service. I was in that beg God for stuff, you know, rather than living God through me. And there was a lady in the audience, a very overweight lady, a lady that lived in, not a mobile home, she lived in a trailer, and she was a greasy looking lady. And for some reason, I asked her if she would come to the pastor's office to see me the next morning after that night after the meeting. Didn't know why. I was trusting my intuition, which I call spirit, because I believe God speaks to us through our intuition. We speak to God through our voice. So my intuition, so she came in, and I had been in private prayer throughout the night about her, because I knew I was supposed to talk to her. And I asked her, I said, how did you get the name Mary? And she said, oh, I was named after my Aunt Mary. And I said, oh. So we talked about her Aunt Mary. And her Aunt Mary was a replica, she was a replica of her Aunt Mary that lived the same way. Now this Mary's mother was well-groomed, well-mannered, socially sophisticated, that looked like she didn't even belong with these two ladies. And I began to talk to Mary about her name. And as I did, the thought and the energy came to me as I said, Mary, do you like your name? And she said, I've never liked my name. And I said, you know, you're identifying with your Aunt Mary. And the energy that you're identifying with is the energy that you've become. I was learning at the same time. And I said, you know, whatever we put out there is what comes back to us. So we began to talk, and then she came back and she saw me the next day. Anyway, rather than go to the long story on this, Mary ended up divorcing her husband, changing her name, getting on a diet, losing a lot of weight, going back to school, and becoming an attorney. Changing her life completely, and her purpose began to be that of helping women in domestic violence. She found herself when she began to say, what's my name? What's my name and what's my future? So I'm asking you, my friends, tonight, what's your name? What's your name and what's your future? Until next week, it's Reverend Dr. D saying, remember, kindness is the language that the deaf can hear. Kindness is a language the blind can see. Be kind to yourself and be kind to others. Spread love around.